we're gonna fix this select tag in our project. Yesterday I said it was okay if you went ahead and did it this way, where it's a hard-coded double array, and the values are what gets displayed in the between the option tags and what gets sent to the controller when they select that particular input. So this one I changed to skis and skis. So let's just see what it looks like here. Let me reload my page and select polls. And now my params show that my product, which is the select tag, the name of the tag itself, that's the key, and the value that came through from that was polls, which is what was selected on my skis and poles up here. All right, but notice it didn't make it sticky. So you have to be able to figure out which of these to select, and it gets a little touchy. Which one of these options to select? If you hard code it like this, you have to make it sticky. So that's kind of a pain. So there are some other ways to do that, and I came up with. It makes it harder to figure out what the sticky part is. Yeah. If you figure it out, you can hard code it. That's fine. All right. So if we go back to our controller and we add some data to my controller, it looks like I deleted it in a fit of rage yesterday. So I'll say products. Oh no, maybe I put it down here. Yeah, I put it down here, but this was a way that I had a value that was sent back and the name that was put in the select box. So that's one way to do that. But we'll do it. We'll start with one way would be to have an array like I had before of skis, poles, mittens, right? So that's %W makes a single array of all of these values. So,
indicating you want to split on height space?
Yes. It just makes it easier. Don't have to type the quotes. So then in my select tag down here, I'm going to change this to. I'll show you 3 different ways to do this, just to show you. I'm going to use this options for select, and instead of this hard coding in here, we will pass in. I have products, but I need to create. The products right now is a single array, and I really need a double array, right? I need a way of having 2 values for this options for select. So we can use the map method because products is an array. I can do array type stuff with it, right? And map is one function that lets me take a value and do something with it. So the value that comes through in my goalposts here, I want to return for every element in my array, I want to return an array that has the value twice. All right, so what that does is it creates an array of arrays where the value is the same in both instances, which is like what I just deleted. That it's going to have skis, skis, poles, poles, mittens, mittens, all inside of an array. And then I can say, my which one?
Your code.
Oh, my code. Yeah, let's get rid of this guy. All right, there we go. Is that better? So products.map, that will return an array for every element of the products array. So it's an array of arrays. And then all I have to do is pass in the value of which one I want to select. Let's say 2 for now. And let's see what it looks like. Hopefully this will work. So now I have skis, poles, mittens. I select poles. I submit. I get the value product is poles, but my skis, my selection didn't work right. Yes?
If the selection is 2, why does it keep pulling the first object?
Because it doesn't find it in the array. So that's the next thing I'm going to talk about
So
is,
it's actually looking for a 2, not
yes,
the position.
right. The selected value that I want. So now instead of a 2, I can try to make this sticky. I can say I'll have a variable here, the selected product that they had, and I want to look for that in my double array. So where do I have to set that value? How do I know what they selected? In the controller, right? And so I'm going to look in the params for what value?
Products. Well, whatever you named the selected.
Param sub product.
There you go.
All right, let's make sure that that's what it was. Product
Product.
here as a symbol. And so now this value here, selected product, will have a string in it of the value that they selected from the pull down. So let's just,
Yeah, your controller says selected. In your view, it says select.
oh, does it?
Yeah.
Selected product.
The other one says select.
Well, they have to be the same.
That's what we're trying to tell you.
Selected producted. I put the ED on there. It's just in the wrong place. Why do details matter in programming? What the heck? It doesn't make sense.
That was wrong. That was a dyslexia thing right there.
That's pretty good. All right, so now let me load my polls, submit my question. It comes back, polls is still selected. It's now sticky, and this tells me what the product was that I selected. If I select mittens and submit, comes back and says mittens is selected. And mittens is still sticky. So that's one way to do it. Kind of convoluted there in one way. So let's do a different way. Let me comment this out and put another select tag here. And instead of the one nice thing about the selection options for select method is that it doesn't really need a double array. If your value and your option are going to be the same thing, then you can just pass a single array, and it will figure out and use the value and the option showable tag as the same value. So I can just say options for select, pass my got to hit the right key. Products, and then my selected product. All right, so products is a single array. If I look back at my array here, this is my single array. My selected product is whatever comes in from the params hash. And so this ends up working the same way. So that's a little nicer. So if I select polls, still sticky, product comes through with polls, it's all very happy. Yes?
So instead of doing at selected products equals params product, couldn't you just put params product in your select?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, what he's saying is, can I just use this inside my view? And I just take this selected product out and put param subproduct. That's possible. Same thing. The reason I would set it as an instance variable, maybe I want to use that in some other place. But for now, this is fine. All right, so those are some nice ways to do it. But those only work if you're going to use the same value and the option. Now, to make that clearer, let's look at the source here. If I look at my my selected option here. There's my select tag. And here's the first option. And so the value is skis, and the data between the value is skis. If I wanted something else passed as the value when they selected skis, I'd have to do it using the hash or some other way like we did yesterday. When we get to models, this will be a lot easier because we're going to be passing models, and this value is going to be the record ID of where that record is in my products table. So all of that ties in. That will actually end up being a number, and this will be the title or whatever of the main product. So that will make more sense, and we won't even have to deal with this in a lot of cases. So it's a lot nicer. All right. Any questions on that? So that lets you. That's more or less hard coding it. That's fairly easy to do to make it sticky. I wanted to go through one more thing, was the radio tags, because they're kind of, radio buttons, because they're kind of different. So let's say I have a radio button. What is different about radio buttons?
Only one of them can be highlighted.
Right, and they're put in place as a group usually, right? You select either contacting me by email, phone, snail mail, whatever. It's one of those 4 cases. So if you select one, it deselects the other, and you group those by the name of the radio tag itself. So radio button tag is another method in Rails, just like our select tag and our number field tag. And what it takes are 2 pieces of information. One would be like the group of our radio buttons. I'm going to call it food, because I'm not going to do your program for you. And the second one might be what they are going to select. All right? So I'm going to say radio button, food, salad. I'm going to put a break tag here. And let's put 3 of these in here to show you what changes. So I want maybe my main dish. This is maybe what do you want to bring. All right, so I'll put in a little thing here, maybe an H2 tag. What would you like to bring to the potluck? Salad, a main dish, or a dessert. All right, so all of the food, this is the group of the tag because they're all together, and then this is what they would be selecting. All right, so let's go and look and see what that looks like in our source. If I reload my page, I've now got radio buttons here, right? Look at that. So when I submit, I get that my food, they selected dessert. If I select this one, I'll get food is main. All right, so these are all, if I look at my source code, I did selected source, didn't I? Is that what you just said? Let's do this then. Well, forget it. View page source, we'll find it. So here's my 3 radio button tags. Input ID equals, and it came up with an ID here that's going to be used in a minute, but the name of the tag was food, and so that the browsers know that these are all grouped together, and they take care of deselecting and selecting. The type is radio, and the value, this is what gets sent back to the form when I submit the data. Under this params hash tag is going to be the food is going to come back food equals main, food equals dessert, etc. So I need a label because obviously that doesn't look very good. What do they select, right? So let's make a label tag for each one of these guys. Label tag And the label tag, if we looked at the source, remember the source had the two names here combined together into one string. So the label tag, I want that to match that. So I'm going to say food underscore salad. And then the value that I want to display as my information is salad. All right? Then, so I'm going to have a label tag for each one of these guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just simply put the word salad right before.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I didn't use any label tags on each of those. I just did label tag salad or label tags main.
Well, this makes it easier to understand how it's attaching the label to the actual salad. If you don't do this, then you can't click on the salad text and have it select that.
Oh, okay.
All right? Because you know how if I have a long word next to a select box or a checkbox, if the label doesn't match the input ID, then you can't click on the text itself to select the box. This ties them together closer. Right. Right. So I'm going to make this main, and it uses the ID. You can do this in normal HTML. You just have to use the ID of the radio tag. But right. So they have to match.
The label and the radio tag have to match.
Right. So I should change this. The value should be main dish and a dessert. All right, so let's reload this guy. Uh-oh, got an error. So the syntax error, missing a comma right there. There you go. It says line 28, so it's always good to have these errors. And I can see my label tag needs a comma right here. Because label tag is a method taking parameters, so I have to put commas between my parameters. And RubyMine even knew that before ahead of time. There we go. Let's reload it, resend the information. And now I've got a nice salad, main dish, or dessert. If I click on the salad text, see how it selects the radio button? If you don't tie those together closely, I have to actually click on this little circle, which is not nice for old people like me. All right, so that makes it nicer. If I select dessert, submit the question, my food then comes back in the params hash as the dessert, food dessert. Right? But it's not sticky. So in a radio button, let's look at the source again. When in doubt, always look at the source because this is just standard HTML. But this lets you see that the label for food salad, that's how it ties it together. This for attribute in the label ties to the ID of the radio button. All right? So those have to be together. That's why they do it that way. So how do I make a radio button selected?
There's a parameter called selected or clicked or checked.
It's checked, right. I always get that mixed up myself.
I never can remember which one it is, so it's there.
So the radio button tag has another parameter on it, which is, this is a method. I can attach another parameter to say, is this one selected or not? So I can say true. Okay, so I want my salad to be true. So if I reload this again, it comes back and salad is selected. But it's not sticky yet. If I push this, and it's always going to be salad, so that's not very good, right? So how can I change this and make this a Boolean statement that says true or false, depending on what they have submitted to my form?
If params food equals salad true.
Okay?
And you could do a ternary in there.
Right. So it's even a little simpler than that. Let's do it so that I have my food, let's do it up in here, is param sub food. So now my food instance variable is available in my view. And I can just check. What I want to do is something like this. If food equals salad, then I want this to be true, right? So return a true or something like that. But to make it a little more simple, this is a Boolean expression by itself, right? So what does this evaluate to? A true or a false. So all I have to do is that. I have to put it in every, first of all, it goes in the radio button, not in the label tag. Thank you, Ryan. It then has to go on every radio button. So for my radio button tag for my main, I want it to be not food equals salad, but food equals main. And my dessert button, here I am writing code for you again. And this is going to be dessert. Yep. Param sub the name of the input field that we have. So, right? So let's look at this and see if it works. Now when you're testing, you're going to have to reload the page first before you're actually testing. So right now it comes up as salad because I had selected salad before. If I select main dish will get selected. See, it's sticky now, and my food that came through my params was main. Select dessert, submit my question, and it comes back with dessert. All right? So the other thing you want to make sure that you test when you do this assignment is go to the About Us or the Contact Us page by itself without submitting the form. And you should have no errors when this page comes up. So you have to deal with only displaying information if they hit the submit button, which we covered yesterday. All right, any questions on those? Radio button, checkbox is similar to that. All the input boxes, a text area is similar to that. All of those work the same. They have similar methods in the Rails documentation. All right, no questions? All right. So I've written practically your whole assignment there for you. Isn't that nice? See, I didn't do it for the calendar, but I did it for this. So now we come across the other part of the assignment is I have to make the name and the email address required information. So how do I do that? If I submit this form right now and I don't have a name and an email address in it, what happens? It submits anyway. It doesn't tell me I had an error. It doesn't say anything to me. So I have to have some way of telling the user that there was an error when I submitted this form. And that comes in to play with a method in Rails called the Flash. All right, so if I go to guides and I look at the action controller, is it? No. Where is it? I just had it this morning. Doggone it. Seriously? They did. Or I just missed it. See, I can't see that. There it is. I was right the first time. So in the action controller guide, this flash here is what we're going to talk about. And you can read that in the guide. It's pretty useful information to read. And what it is just a hash or an array, we don't really care what it is, that lets us have, I guess actually it's a hash, that lets us store information so that we can display it on the page somewhere. So while we come across an error, we store that information in this flash variable that we can then print out on the page somewhere else if we have an error that comes up. All right, so the first thing we have to do is we have to display that information. So they have written some nice code here for you. We'll just copy this to start with. In the layout, in our application layout, we're going to put this flash set of ERB. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it over here in my application layout because I want it on every page. I want to be able to use this functionality everywhere. In the old days, they actually put this in place for you when you generated a new application, but they took that out for some reason. So you can paste it anywhere you want in your HTML. It's just a block of HTML that's going to display a paragraph tag. And I can put this inside of a div if I want. So I could say div style, and I know this is bad, but too bad. Border 1 pixel solid red, and I'll put an ending div around this. Indent this nicely so I can see that. And now my 2 paragraphs will be displayed only if something is in there. So let's look at the ERB here. If there is something in the flash at the element called notice, then I want to print out this whole paragraph. If there's a flash in the element called error, that means there's some string stored in here, then I want to print that out. And I don't want to print out anything if there's nothing there. All right? So that's all this is. It's just a piece of code to print out. I have an error here for some reason. Oh, I don't even end my div tag. No, the semicolon is only necessary if I have multiple lines. All right. So now I can, let's just fill that up with something and see how that works. I can just say flash sub notice equals some string. Hey, Dave, you can't do that. And if I look at this now and reload my page, it says, hey, Dave, you can't do that. It puts it in the page for me directly. And I can style that however I want, etc. But notice that only goes in the About Us page. If I go to Recipes, that's interesting. That was interesting. It shouldn't. It only shows up on the About Us page that I go to, and the next page. Yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about here in a minute. Also, it's displaying my red div here, no matter what. So I might want to put that inside the if tag. I don't know. I'll just leave it for now. So that's a way of telling somebody that something is wrong. So I would typically only do this if there's something wrong, right? So how can I tell if they submitted a name or not? Okay, so I need to look at the value of my variable name and see if anything is there, right? So
Shouldn't you do that before it's submitted, though?
you should do it only when it's submitted.
Yeah, but before it comes back around.
Yeah, you'll see that will happen here. So we're going to say if my name is nil, I want to display this flash. and I'm going to do error instead, and say that name cannot be blank. All right, I'm going to take this one out. And so if my name is nil, then it's going to display this error message here. All right, so the problem is that it showed up before I submitted the link, before I submitted the form. If I submit the form, it says name cannot be blank. If I put something in here and submit my question, it goes away. Okay, so it's okay to a point, but it doesn't work if I come straight to the page. Right? So I only want to do it on submit. So how did I do that? I did that yesterday on commit, right? So I'm going to only say this if the commit value was there. So I'm gonna make it like this to start with. If params sub commit, if that is valid, that means that they actually submitted something. Then I'm going to check to see if my name is nil. I could do that in one fell swoop, but I'm going to have two errors here in a minute, so that's why I'm doing that. So now if I go to my page without submitting the page, it works. But notice that I had to reload twice for that. All right? So the problem is with Flash and forms is that Flash shows the error. It becomes populated for the next request from the server. The next request. So if I reload the page, I get the error, it stores it in the Flash, but the page is already rendering at that point. So it's not actually set yet. So when I load the page again, then the Flash comes back around and I see that error message. That's why you were seeing it when I had to reload twice. So there's another method of the Flash type called Flash.now. That means I want this to display on the current page that's rendering right now. Okay, so this should fix that a little bit once I reload it a few times. Now if I submit this without a name, is my commit not the same? Commit. All right, so the problem is, this comes to the next problem. When I submit here, when I actually submit something, the name value doesn't come through as nil, comes through as an empty string, right? So I have to check both times. I have to say if the name is nil or my name is empty. All right? If either of those is the case, then I'm going to display my error message. So we'll submit it again. And it says name cannot be blank. There we go. So if I put something in my name and submit it, everything is okay. It's sticky. It kept my name. And all is happy. Isn't that cool? All right. So how would I do that for my email address? Same thing, right? It's the same kind of concept. I'm going to have the same kind of code here. And instead of name, I'm going to check for email. And email. And say email. Cannot be blank. But what is wrong with this code right now? No? Something more obvious. That's one problem. That's one problem. What's another problem? I'm accessing my email variable before I set it. That's a real simple one. But so I need to have my email and my name set before I go through and throw an error if they're not set. All right? So that's one thing. The other one, as you see, is if I should only get one error here. So if I have name set and I submit my question, I get email cannot be blank. That's correct. If I don't have a name and I set an email address, well, first of all, Netscape or Firefox comes up with this error. And I submit that. It says name cannot be blank. But if I have both of them blank, it goes through both. So why does it say email? Well, the first time through it said, okay, it's blank. I'm going to set my Flash.now error slot to have this string in it. Then it said, is email nil? Yes, it is. So I'm going to set it. I'm overriding that variable with this last string here. All right. So how can I do that? Well, this is just a string that gets stored in the Flash.now. It's just a string. Well, these are built-in slots that people are well known, so I don't want to use different name or errors. But what I can do is append these strings to each other. But then we will have one error here as well. That it says undefined method push for a nil class. Why is that? Well, I can't push something if this isn't defined yet. Right? Flash.now, where the error slot is nil, and it worked fine when I assigned something to it. But if I push a string onto a nil, it doesn't know what to do with that. So one way around that is to Flash.now set that sub error is going to be equal to an empty string, and that fixes those type of errors. Kind of a pain. Again, when we get to models, a lot of this goes away. It's a lot nicer. And it says name cannot be blank, email cannot be blank. All right? Pretty, but it's all squished together. So a /n, what will that do in HTML? It will display nothing because it's white space and it will be squished together by the browser. So I really need a break tag. All right, so let's see what happens. Let's put a break tag after both of these. And it shows my break tag. So how do I fix that? There we go. So I can do that here, or I can do that in my application here. I could just say display this as HTML safe instead, and display this as HTML safe instead. That's where I'm actually putting it out to the page. Beautiful, man. Isn't that great? Yeah. That's great stuff. So that's all I want for the assignment. And here I wrote the whole Flash thing for you.
You don't want the checkboxes?
No, you want the checkboxes. You have to fill out the rest of the stuff. I'm not going to do that for you. Required. Oh, that's an HTML5 thing. I never use that because that's a new HTML5 thing. So let's go look it up. See if that allows that. You might be able to. Yeah, let's try it. Let's play with that. Let's do it in the layout. Just notice how I put these. I gave it a class and I gave it a size. I should be able to put any required is going to be required is required. That's another one like the check boxes or checked equals checked. So let's see if that works. So that's for the name. So it didn't do anything in Firefox. Let's do it again one more time. Now that's something you're going to have to remember, that you have to reload the page to get the new HTML on the page and then submit it. So typically you're going to want to load this twice. So now that that is said, if I look at the HTML,
Is that an acceptable?
no, I want you to use the Flash.
Okay.
But so it shows in my required, it says required. So Rails is nice in that it allows me to add any of these tags that come up in the future just by putting that type of a new hash element here. So if some new thing comes out tomorrow that's everybody's got to have, Rails will work with that. It's just happy to put those strings in for me. All right, so you cannot do that. You can put it on, but then I have no way of testing that your Flash is actually going to work. I'm not going to change your code at all. So actually, I don't want you to use that because I'm not going to be able to test your Flash. All right, so do not put that in your assignment. Any other questions?
You said the receipt you have to do individual, but the error messages, can you click through that?
The individual error messages?
Yeah.
What do you mean, like these?
Can you do like a loop and loop through all the errors in the...
Well, there's only one error. There's one string in that Flash.now. There's one string there, so it doesn't seem. I guess if you could store them as an array if you wanted, but it's up to you. I don't care as long as I see both errors. First thing I'm going to do is load your page and click submit, and I should see a flash come up there. Then I'm going to set the email, and I'm going to hit submit and see if name error shows up. Then I'm going to switch those two and just have the name and not the email. So I'm going to have to reload your page several times. And then once I get that flash error gone, I'm going to select your other stuff to make sure that they're sticky. And again, one more time, you cannot just print out the params like this. I want you to print them like we did this in a table or whatever you want to show what they selected. So I don't want you just to cycle through the params. I want you to cycle through, and because I want you to get used to using these instance variables like this. All right? So set instance variables to each one of these. That also, you also need that to make sure everything is sticky. So you need them anyway.
I might not doing that. Just printing out everything that I type in, select, or
Mm-hmm.
but I use the after selected index for the drop-down menu, just whatever item they pick.
Yeah.
It doesn't print out anything. It prints out a blank.
The only thing I can think of is that this is wrong somehow.
I guess you don't want password to be sticky.
I don't ask for password. So, no, it shouldn't be in there.
Well, then why are you
I'll have to look at that one offline. I'll have to come look at that. All right, any other questions? All right, stopping.